Hello there. Well, here's some welcome news. Someone's at last stepped forward and said that central banks must avoid social issues and stick to their remit, something that all such institutions should do. Now, if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe, click the little bell, select all, and then like and comment below. Now, this is a message that should be resounding around all our institutions and quangos. Keep your noses out of social issues and stick to your official remit. The trouble is, though, that to appear progressive and woke, so many of these organisations have sat down and got their MBA staff to amend their mission and vision statements to reflect their woke and progressive ideals, more than the core aims of their organisation. But the chairman of the US Federal Reserve Bank, Jerome Powell, has stepped up to the plate and said that institutions must resist the temptation to get embroiled in social issues that go beyond their organisational remit. And former Governor of the Bank of England, Mervyn King, has supported these comments by saying that responsibility cannot be misused by trying to creep into areas which have not been explicitly delegated by the appropriate political process. There are plenty of other people who can take measures to combat climate change, and I worry that people in their great enthusiasm for doing good are actually putting at risk central bank independence. Now, the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, pointed to climate change as a particular example, saying that the Federal Reserve would not become a climate policymaker. We should stick to our knitting and not wander off to pursue perceived social benefits that are not tightly linked to our statutory goals, he said. Now, this will not go down well in certain circles. You know, those on the hard left, engaged in marching through the institutions and working on that well-known principle of common purpose, of leadership beyond authority. Do you remember that? These people rely on getting the right people into positions where they can guide the remit of institutions away from their strict legal mandate by leading beyond their authority, and that is effectively acting beyond their powers. What Powell and King seem to be doing is putting a thumb in that particular optic. You do what the law tells you to do, they suggest. No second guessing, no personal politics inserted ad hoc here and there to try and steer the ship in a social issue-driven direction. And what we need is a UK central bank, the Bank of England, that concentrates on sorting out monetary policy and getting inflation down, not deciding that, despite its legal remit, it can let inflation rip while it goes woke. And even worse, deciding that high inflation is actually good for some or other woke issue. And there could also be a legal angle to this. If the Bank of England did decide to pursue policies that went against its remit to keep inflation at 2%, then are the Governor and those on the Monetary Policy Committee breaking the law? What if they unilaterally decide that completely trashing the economy is in the interests of averting climate change? Or is that happening already? Anyway, how many government departments and quangos are now controlled by common purpose types leading beyond authority and putting these social issues at the core of what they do to the detriment of the UK, its economy and its people? Now here's a bit of good news for you. According to the Chief Financial Officer at Sainsbury's, inflation does look like it's starting to abate. But that's for clothes and general goods, not for food. So that seems to indicate that people are still buying the basics, but holding off of buying the other things they can no longer afford or are avoiding buying just in case. But gas prices are now also falling as the supply that was ratcheted up for winter now exceeds usage because of the milder than normal winter weather, so far. And with people reducing their usage of energy anyway due to the high costs. And even with an impending cold snap, supplies are predicted to outweigh any possible increase in demand. However, much of the gas supplied to our homes will have been bought months ago on a contractual basis that might keep their prices at your meter higher for longer, as is always the case. But we also have the house builder Barratt Homes freezing its hiring plans and cancelling the purchase of 290 plots of land as it prepares for a marked slowdown in property activity as mortgage costs increase. And it also predicts an 8% drop in property prices in 2023. And one assumes other house builders will also be viewing the market in much the same way, and fewer houses built now, while the population is still increasing, will put further pressure on our housing stock, and fuel even more calls for a redeployment of houses and rooms, and taxing people out of large houses where they underutilise their room use. Then there's the matter of where will all those English Channel red carpet visitors we welcome live? Where will they be housed? Now we'll all be aware of the ageing population placing strains on the state pension system, especially with the triple lock mechanism that ensures it becomes more expensive to fund every year. And many people are unhappy that the increases in pension age above 66 could well be brought forward, meaning they will have to work longer before collecting their state pension. But the French are now also going through that exercise. Currently, the French state pension can be collected from age 62, where men can live for a further 24 years and women for 27 years. But President Macron has plans to increase the threshold age from 62 to 64 from 2030 onwards. Otherwise, face an increasing pension shortfall that is already predicted to hit €13.5 billion by 2030 if nothing is done. And the French people are not happy with Macron's plans, and strikes are being organised on January the 19th. And in his New Year's speech, Emmanuel Macron said, "As I promised to you, this year will be the year of reform to the pension system, which aims to balance our system for the years and decades to come. We need to work more," he said. Now that's a one-liner that'll go down well in France. Now, the idea is that between September this year and 2030, the state pension age in France will rise by 3 months every year. So not a lot of notice, but is it scaled enough to keep the gilets jaunes, those rebellious yellow vests, at home? But it is yet another indicator that the issues we face in the UK are not isolated to us. They are generally global, or at least faced by other developed nations. And finally, when subscribing, please don't forget to press that little bell and also select the all option, or you won't get any notifications when I publish a new video. And thank you all so much for taking the time to watch the show.